What is going on, internet dwellers? I am Hawk with my co-host Zen. Zen, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. We've lost our third member tonight, Jace. Um, I think Jace didn't get more than 10 words in last time because you and I kept stepping on his toes, Hawk.
I honestly did feel a bit bad because on a couple of occasions we did actually cut him off. Like I remember one in particular part when we were talking about Star Trek, he did actually try and chime in, and I immediately cut him off to say about something else. So honestly, I did feel a bit bad about that.
I think we're kind of like that on the Discord too, to be honest. Like, I think you and I, over the months, we get to these kind of heated debates and
We get caught up in it.
yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing. And I think Jace just probably sits back and goes, shit, I don't want any part of this. Maybe.
Guess we get maybe a bit too enthusiastic about it and just sort of like trample over everyone else as we're going for it.
Like, honestly, ever since I've known Jace, I don't think I've ever had a fight with him, or well, not a fight, but I've never had a disagreement with him. I've never had a heated debate.
I don't think I've had that either, but
I think he's a very peaceful guy.
yeah.
But look, the show goes on. I don't think we're necessarily looking for an extra third person. I mean, when we first brought up the idea of this podcast, I did see it as just you and I because of the debates that we got into.
Yeah, but for some weird reason, I just thought it'd be the three of us. Like, I understood that maybe I thought Jace was a 50-50, but I was still just like, it's usually the three of us in a chat on Discord. I mean, sometimes a couple people, but it's generally just the three of us. So for some reason, Jace not being here sort of kind of feels a bit different, but still,
it's a bit sad.
Yeah, but it is generally just primarily us two speaking, and Jace will chime in whenever he does. But
Yeah. Well, we still could bring Joker. He's another guy that he joined us when we were playing Destiny 2 together, and he's someone that I've caught up with in real life earlier this week. And he talks a lot, and I think he would bring something different to the table as well. Like, I think he's, even though you guys have a lot in common, you guys are both really different when it comes to geeking out and stuff. And I think it would be a pretty good dynamic. And he's a really good dude as well.
yeah, I've when I've talked to him before, I've definitely gotten that vibe from him, and
You love him.
it definitely yes, my continuous teasing of him. Yes.
I mean, that photo on our Discord, Joker posted a photo of himself, a selfie that he took when he was lying in bed, and you kind of outdid it the next day, which was pretty fucking hilarious.
It had to be done. It was so good. It was optimum moment. I was just like, I have to do this. It's gonna. And even I was even like, this can either go really well or really badly. I'm just going. I don't care. I'm just gonna. I'm optimistically going for the really good, and it did turn out really good because I thought, he's got a similar sense of humor, and
his photo actually reminded me of like as if he was using it for a grinder profile. Like he had the bedroom eyes on and everything. I'm like, dude, you I hope you're not using this on Tinder or anything, because you can't do that. You can't do these posy bedroom eyes. Oh god, it's so funny.
Well, I was going to imitate both of them, but I couldn't find the first one. It was just like, I'll just leave it with that one. But he took it really well, so then it was really funny.
I mean, I think the first time I found out what Joker looked like was when he and you were both doing the face swap app stuff.
Also funny, like
Oh,
one of the
so
best
funny.
apps ever.
So funny. I mean, I know that we're uploading YouTube videos with no graphics, but if it was just like a looping face swap of you and Joker, that would be pretty funny. We're probably getting copyright problems as well. Maybe.
Well, the first time I saw your face was when you linked that video about Need for Speed in that video, because I saw your face.
Yeah.
I saw your face, and I couldn't, and I heard your voice, and I couldn't initially connect them, because when you're talking on camera, your voice sounds a little bit different. But then when it went into the voiceover, I'm like, that, yeah, 100% is your voice.
A lot of people don't even know that I'm Asian. I think it could be
I
the Aussie accent.
I honestly didn't either. I
Mm.
didn't know how old you were.
Yeah, fuck. A lot of people don't know how old I am.
It was the same with Jace though. I was just like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
this guy sounds like he's like in,
yeah. He doesn't
maybe
sound old
maybe
at
a
all.
bit older than me, but like, not too old. But then I found out that, how old he was, and I was just like, oh, okay. I'm like, poof, didn't realize that.
Yeah, that's funny. All right, so tonight we thought we'd talk about anime and manga, which is, I mean, I have history with both anime and manga, but I don't think I've met someone that's more into manga than you are. I
I
mean,
mean,
I said
there's
that about Star Wars last time, but I mean, it goes with manga as well.
yeah, but with I wouldn't call myself a huge fan. That being the thing, because I wouldn't call myself, yeah, obviously I wouldn't call myself a huge fan, because when I've seen like AniTubers and like the people who I'd consider actually huge fans of anime and manga, they've gone like way into this thing of like, and they've seen so many shows, read so many mangas, but in comparison to me, I'm pretty much like surface level stuff.
But
You
you
know, I
you actually have even spoken about like you want like a library of manga. Like you wanted to have this humongous shelf system on that it took the entire wall so that you could collect all the manga. Like that's pretty
well,
into it, I'd say.
that not technically true. I like physical copies of books. I'm not a
Yeah.
fan of digital copies, and it's not just manga. It's comic books in general. But at the moment, um, I got a bookshelf, and within like a couple of weeks, was already like running completely out of space for it, because
Yeah.
I was getting more copies of Hunter x Hunter. I'm rebuying Full Metal Alchemist. I'm trying Death Note for the first time. I'm decided to read the Naruto manga. I've started reading the JoJo.
Yeah,
Uh,
you're always juggling a lot. Like you're always hopping on the Discord talking about some title that I've never heard of. So one thing that I have a flashback to is like obviously every time I've been to Japan over 30 times, and I'm always dropping into anime and manga shops where there's just like walls of manga, like
yeah.
walls of it. And same in Sydney with Kinokuniya bookshop, like you see a humongous manga section where every time I've gone to that shop there's at least 10 people sitting on the floor reading manga in a bookshop.
Oh
uh,
yeah, I'm fully aware of that. In like Japan, like there is no, as people described it is like an anime like paradise. You have anime cafes
yeah,
or manga cafes and everything like that. You have like a culture that's obviously surrounded, like you've just got cafes that are, and hotels and everything like that, that's based around shows or
they're not
certain
even proper. They're
genres.
not even proper cafes. A lot of them have just vending machines that you put coins in, and it serves you hot food, but it's like fast food. And yeah, it's just all about like you can even get a private booth if you do want to go in there and read by yourself. But people even sleep in them. They hire them and sleep in them, and they rent them out permanently.
Yeah, I mean, well, even like if you go to karaoke in Japan,
Mm,
like other than the fact that you've got your classic Western songs, you've also got actual anime songs in there,
yeah,
and it's just
yeah.
like, wow, that is so geeky to me. I'm just like, imagine you just going in there and you put on some JoJo like theme song or something like that, and you just start blasting the pipes out with that sort of stuff, and you're just like, wow. Like
Yeah,
you'd
for
have to
sure.
get pretty drunk to do that sort of thing in my case, but in my eyes. But I mean, still, it's pretty funny just to think about.
But look, even when I think about the Kinokuniya bookshop and these sort of manga stores which have a shit ton of manga in them in Japan, it's so different to comics. Like I grew up on comics before, like I was into comic books before manga, and later on, visual novels. Like, but comic books first, and you knew to try to keep them in their sleeves, and you're always looking for edition ones, and
Yes.
I was super into the cover art. Obviously, like cover art was such a huge thing.
Oh well, the cover
Um,
art I love the cover art for Tokyo Ghoul. It's so nice. Have you seen it?
no, I haven't.
You should look it up. You'd love it.
But that's the thing. Like, I think later on in my graphic design career, I would actually find comic books that I like the covers of, and then Google their little signatures in and find the artists and actually start following the artists. So um, when I was started working, it was a funny story actually. I'll cut it short, but it's like I walked into the place that I got an interview at. And first of all, the boss was a chick. It wasn't a guy. And I was like, fuck yeah. And she wasn't wearing shoes. So I'm like, holy shit, like this is different. I wasn't expecting an interview with a boss that was a woman, let alone someone not wearing shoes. And she had like the latest Power Mac, which at the time was like, I don't know, 20 grand or something. It was something stupid. And she had it balancing on this tiny stool. Like if you knocked the stool, the 20 grand Power Mac would fall off and
Well,
break.
I think that just give me anxiety. I mean, I'm not a big
Yeah.
Apple fan, but still, it's just like,
Oh,
please take that off there. I mean, oh
I
my
was just
god.
like, what the fuck is this? I said to her, like, what the hell have you got it on this stool for? Like, if you touch that, it'll fall. And she just looked at it and she went, I like the tension of it. And I just knew that I really wanted to work at this place, you know. And her whole desk was covered in graphic novels, and it was the Sandman series. And within like a week of working there, she said, Justin, have you read Neil Gaiman's The Sandman? And I hadn't, and she just lent me a shit ton of them, and I got super into it. So I think at that stage, when I was like eight, I don't know, 20 or something years old, I jumped off comic books and got into graphic novels. But I do think that manga is more like a graphic novel than it is a comic book, because it's something to do with like seeing the bookshops in Japan, and seeing the bookshops in Sydney, and it being a book on the shelf, as opposed to, I don't think that many people put comics on a shelf. Like, I know I never kept my comic books on a shelf.
Uh, I've seen like plenty of people that generally, when it comes to comic books, they'll buy two editions. They'll buy one to read and obviously one to collect, and
Yeah,
then you'll keep them in a sealed sleeve,
yeah,
tucked away somewhere, not
yeah.
to be harmed or anything like that. And, those are the people that really like collecting that sort of stuff, which is something I don't get into. Uh,
Well, I think initially as well, the comic books were probably early on, they were just jammed together and then sold as a graphic novel. But I think like the concept of manga is that there were no weekly comics that came out for them to glue it all together as a big book. Like, it's actually written as this. I mean, there are editions too, though, right? Like, they go on and on and on.
mhm. Well, my first comic book, like I imagine a lot of people, was Spider-Man, and even then,
Yeah, same.
um,
What
I
one of
did
the
like
first?
I did like it. But, you couldn't, like, comic books stores and everything like that weren't available to me. Like that Spider-Man and I think like one other thing
Well, they were
was
in
an
newsagents, right?
an
Like, I mean,
X.
newsagents sold comics.
Well, we didn't have like our news agent was the NAFI basically, which is just a shop that just has generally everything in it.
Right.
Um, and you'd have Spider-Man or X-Men. I did read
X-Men for
them.
sure. That was
Yeah,
always there. Yeah.
I did read them, but
Do you-
I never got like regular editions, so I never got like issue 1, issue 2, issue 3. I'd get like issue 14 and then like a couple weeks later issue 17. So I could never
Yeah,
like
I was the same. That's why the graphic novels came out.
I'd never get to the full, like, get to read the entire story or really get into the characters. So
It didn't
my
matter either. Like,
my
I didn't find that it mattered. Like, I have so many editions that,
honestly,
like,
reading comic books nowadays, because when I was like, oh, I really want to actually kind of want to read a comic book, and I decided to get
yeah.
into the DC Rebirth thing, and I was just like, okay, cool. I started reading my favorite character's comics, The Flash, and
Mm.
honestly, volume 1 enjoyed it. Then volume 2, I'm just like, what the fuck's going on here? But then you keep referencing like, oh, this is reference to this comic book and this comic book and this, and I was just like, oh, okay, so
Right.
basically, if I want to know what's going on, I have to read like 17 other comic books to
Yeah,
get
right.
into it. And I'm just like, oh, I just can't really, no. But my first manga was Full Metal Alchemist, and it was from our school's library. And
Wow, that's pretty cool.
yeah, um, I only managed. I at that point I had only read like 9 volumes, as that's all they had of the 27 I believe they've got. And when I came to Australia, like many years later, I actually, with my own money, started buying the actual volumes, and I've been rebuying. And honestly, I fell in love with it because it's
Mm.
just such a good story. But also, you know, but actually, we'll circle back to that part. Just to quickly note that I'm rebuying the hardcover copy editions, but they're taking fucking forever to come out. Like I'm
Yeah.
literally waiting months for
Yeah,
the
you
next
mentioned that. Yeah.
volume. But the one appeal that I like about manga is that it's like volume one and volume two are a literal continuation of itself. Like once volume one
Yep.
ends,
Yep.
the next thing in volume two is exactly where it ended, sort of in volume one. It's not saying, oh, by the way, you need to go get this manga to know what's going on. It's just like fuck
Yeah, I
that.
get you. Yeah, I got the whole series of Initial D on manga, but that's it. But I'm like taking a step back, like you just reminded me, my high school did have comics, but they were hardcover Tintin and Asterix
Yeah.
comics. And my mom was running a fashion boutique when I was a kid, and one of her um, staff's husband was the original artist who did the artwork on the cover of the Phantom comics every issue.
Wow.
So when he passed away, I got given all the original Phantom cells that he did.
Wow.
So I've still got them. Like I'm sure they're worth something to somebody, but
Oh, they'd be worth a lot, I imagine.
yeah, they're like awesome. They're like just what he created, and they were print ready, and it's what they used to print all the covers. So um, that was
Yeah,
cool. Like
he
I don't think I was super into the Phantom, but you know, he sort of he gave me a lot of them. So
I'm not into the Phantom at all. I only know of the comic book because I've seen it
mm,
every so often. But I imagine if you auction those off
yeah,
to like comic book
be
collectors,
worth a
you
lot. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I should dig them out and
Well,
try to
especially
document them.
depending, well, it depends on what condition you own them as well. Because if they're
I put them all into one of those old school photo albums, so they'd be pretty protected.
yeah, because if they're in mint condition, they'd be like
Yeah,
worth a lot. But if they're like slightly damaged, I mean,
yeah, that's the way it works, right? With
they
comic
they
books.
they still no, they'd still be worth quite a bit, but just not as much as they would be if they're in mint condition.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like my whole house is stuffed with old stuff that's worth something. But I mean, you know what it's like. You just say you sell something for $500 or whatever. Let's that $500 is gone in a couple of weeks. So I'd rather have the thing rather than cash that's just going to disappear anyway.
Yeah, true.
But like I think that there's that question that a lot of people have about, or a perception that people have about anime and manga, and that a lot of people that don't understand it think it's like cartoons for teenagers.
Yes, people think that anime is basically a cartoon where 90% of it is screaming, or that all of anime is for children, and it's like
Yeah.
no, it's not
No,
really.
it's
It is
pretty
not.
complicated, isn't it? Like I totally agree. Like I'm with you on that. Like I think it's easy to not understand it. I get that, but there are. I mean, you would know more than me, but with manga, there's so many titles. It's like sort of like where comic books it might be. People might think, oh, that's superheroes and Spider Man and stuff. Manga
Well,
is so much more diverse.
like if you want, well, I actually find like the hero stuff in manga is really interesting, but
Yeah, of course, there's that component as well. But like you said, there's romance, and I mean, and it's not just like one or two comic books that are about romance. Like with manga, there's like shit tons of romance.
there's just such a diverse thing to it because you've got romance in the classic sense, but then you've got like really creepy romance and then
Oh fuck,
really sickly romance. You have like all the types of romance. in it, and like you have like, some pretty like taboo topics even in manga itself.
I mean, look, even Tarantino using anime in Kill Bill was it's a modern thing. Like that would have been probably I would actually say that's probably the first time a lot of people have seen any anime at all because it's such a Hollywood blockbuster. Like I think some people watching that movie might have gone, "What the fuck is this? It's a
Honestly,
cartoon."
honestly, when you say anime, people's mind generally just go to Dragon Ball or Naruto, I imagine, or One Piece, in fact. But
I
then if you were to mention like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, they'd think like maybe because of the memes. But then if you were to mention like Tokyo Ghoul, or maybe Full Metal Alchemist or Overlord or something like that, something that's not really well known, you know.
See, I don't know any of those. Like um I remember going to a show at the MCA, which is the Museum of Contemporary Art in Circular Quay. So right next to the Opera House, there's a huge art gallery, and in 1995, um, they had a they had an anime and manga exhibition called Kaboom,
Mhm.
and they had a lot of Astro Boy stuff there. Like, I think I don't know. It wouldn't have been the creator of Astro Boy, but it could have been his son that got up on the stage. I'm pretty sure the creator of Astro Boy would have passed away by then. But this old guy hopped on the microphone and started singing in Japanese, and it was a bit out of key, and there was no backing track or anything. He just started singing, but when he got to the chorus, everyone in the audience realized he was singing the Astro Boy theme song in Japanese,
Yeah.
and everyone just cheered. Like I think I stood up and was clapping hands. It got so emotional. Um, and at the end of that night, they put on the unreleased Urotsuki Doji, which is like it's basically demons fucking women, like uncensored. Um, there was some hardcore shit in that. There was like, just so many rape scenes. Um, and I went with my uni crowd. So the girls that I was with at the end of that, like, a lot of women actually stood up and left the exhibition.
Or
They could
shocking.
they could not watch it,
Yeah, not
and
surprising.
not surprising at all. And the girls that I was with, when we walked out of there, and this is pre like SJW and pre any of internet and all that shit, right? Like these girls were so fucking mad. I just remembered how angry they were. Like as guys, I think we just thought, "Whoa, that was pretty full on." But I just distinctly remember how angry they were with that anime.
I
So
mean, it's understandable though, because I mean, come on.
yeah, I mean, at that time, I think we just put it down to repression because we kind of knew that we heard rumors of Japanese anime and manga shops or sex shops selling dirty schoolgirl underwear and stuff. We always knew those things. Like even though we might not have seen them firsthand, we kind of got that they must have some sort of hardcore sexual repression going on, and it all just came out in anime.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I mean, it doesn't make it right. I'm not trying to justify it. I'm just like, holy shit, there's some crazy shit in anime. Like, as a creative person, I'm all for creativity. But I think maybe once upon a time where in the 90s where they could get away with absolutely anything, I think in this day and age, they'd probably have a really hard time doing that kind of shit.
Yes, there was something that comes to mind, but I just can't remember off the top of my head where anime did actually sort of get in trouble for something. I just can't remember what it was.
Yeah,
Um,
we know. I mean, we know with games that even Grand Theft Auto, like was it Grand Theft Auto 3? I don't remember. It was an older one where you could you could solicit a prostitute on the street, and then when she hopped out of your car, you could bash her and take your money back. And
yeah,
that's the reason why it was banned in Australia, but you could still buy it from New Zealand. But I think that's when things started to get banned and things started to change for this sort of the geeky scene, you know. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm assuming that this kind of anime and manga is still out there. I don't know. But I'm assuming that it would probably still be out there. No, I went to I was in Japan. The last time I was in Japan, I went to a big sex store there, and there was some filthy shit in there. Like, oh my god, I can't even talk about it. So, I mean, they where they did have underwear dispensers though, it wasn't real underwear. Like it was just the concept of it.
Yeah, that's just really weird.
I know, right? But it's like they. Oh, I don't even want to talk about it. Like I don't even want to talk about some of the stuff that we saw. But it like I couldn't even take photos of the stuff because I'd probably get in trouble for posting the photos. Like it was just some of the stuff that we saw on our last trip. And I don't remember how long ago that was, but it was like 2011 or 12, something like that.
Yeah.
So it definitely still exists there. And I've seen documentaries about Japan since, where apparently these documentaries talk about Japan on the surface seems like they're having so much sex, but in reality, no one in Japan's having sex.
Hmm.
So again, it makes me go back to that 1995 sort of thing of the feeling of maybe it comes from being repressed and needing to get that shit out, and it tends to come out in fantasy or anime and manga.
Well, most likely, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
A big repression around
repression.
the whole
Yeah.
topic and the act itself. So a sort of like visualization of someone like essentially trying to do it. But but the problem with them doing that um, is that obviously it puts some people off, like Food Wars, um,
Yeah,
where
you've
they try
mentioned this show. I don't know. I don't. What is Food Wars?
Food Wars is like it's a manga and an anime. Well, it's about making food, but they express the flavor, the texture, like basically how good the food is, uh, with more of a visualization of like it being sexualized.
Sounds food porn. Sounds good.
Um,
uh,
so there was just like there's this one part where this chick, it was like the very start where this dad and his son basically did this food battle like they supposedly always do, and this chick is the one that has to try it out, and she declares the dad the winner for like the 500th time, I think. And then he goes, "Okay, I'm going to punish you by you having to eat these uh, peanut butter marinated octopus." And she tries it, and then the visualization of her just being filled up by like
it's always octopuses and
tentacles.
tentacles. Yeah, see, that's the running
and I, and
joke.
I, and I was just like, I just couldn't. I just stopped, and I'm like, I can't do this. I'm like, this is just too much.
The
Like,
tentacles is such a running theme. It's just it is so twisted. Like it, you know, you go from like it's hilarious to go from X-Men to something like Rotsuki Doji. You know, it's like it's just, you know, seeing muscly men and Barbie doll, big boob kind of toned women in tight outfits with capes versus, you know, yeah, demons raping women. It's just like it's so off, like it's so different.
yeah,
But it's definitely not for kids. So there you go. So going back to our what a lot of people think about um, anime and manga being like cartoons for teenagers, like
yeah,
you and I
it's not
both
only
know
it's
firsthand that it's like, holy fuck, this is not for kids.
well, yeah. If you went, here's the first episode of Goblin Slayer, you would not show that to a kid. You would immediately turn that shit off. That
Mm.
thing that I found that the first episode to be a bit disturbing. Like, I mean, come on. But like, it's not only that, but it can be like just the gore factor of it as well.
Yeah, yeah,
You
it's
know,
pretty fucking violent as well.
there are some shows where they just literally are just blowing each other up, and like their heads are exploding and there's just blood everywhere and everything like that. And it's just like, no, that's not like it at all. Plus, in hero shows like One Punch Man, um, in superheroes and comic books, they'll just beat the cat. They'll just beat the bad guys up. They'll be beaten up, thrown in jail. They'll escape, everything like that. So everyone sort of gets harmed in the fact that they just get injured, but that's it. But in anime and manga, and like One Punch Man in particular, they'll full on like kill characters. They'll be like, "Oh, you're the bad guy," and just blow them the fuck up, and like,
Yeah.
"Oh, justice has been served." And it's like, holy shit.
Well, I think in Sydney, it really blew up. Like anime blew up when Akira was brought over, and we even had a few uh, art cinemas. Like we had an art cinema in Glebe that actually showed Akira and all the Mad Men um, movies, like all the stuff they brought over. And
Yeah, Akira's a classic. It's great.
yeah, I mean, seeing that on the big screen and seeing Ninja
But
Scroll
in
and
fact, that's also, again, a movie not for kids. I mean, there's actually nudity in it.
well, yeah,
Like,
there's a rape scene in it, pretty
well,
much.
it's not so much. It's one, yeah, where they like shove her around and then they like
Yeah,
rip
I
her top
vaguely
off.
remember.
But
Yeah,
that's about it.
yeah, and it's a super complex. Um, I mean, it's almost like watching a David Lynch the first time you watch it. It's almost like you just got to go with it. Like if you try really hard to understand it, you're just almost missing the point. But
Yeah,
super stylish, and I think that really that time it just Wicked City and Fist of the North Star and all these movies they became collectibles. Like I think it was the DVD era, and you'd go to any Westfield mall or whatever big mall that had an HMV or a DVD store, and there would always be an anime section.
yeah.
So I think Akira really sort of was the beginning of the movement in Sydney, anyway. Um, but yeah, since those old movies though, I fell off. Like I think at some stage a lot of them tried to get into CG and 3D animation, and I did like a few of them stylistically, but it wasn't the same for me. Like I love the old school, you know.
Yeah, but honestly, the CG scene when that first sort of came out, and like, every show was doing it, like
Mm.
Beast Wars. I remember from when
Oh
I was a
yeah,
kid,
fucking hate
which
that.
looks horrible. It looks
Hate it. Hate it.
terrible. Oh, I
Hate it.
loved it. I loved it as a kid, but I mean, when I rewatch it nowadays, I'm just like, this is not what I remember. This is like really bad.
Even Initial D had the car scenes in CG.
Yeah, that's unnoticed. That's like something you will never not
It,
notice.
it,
It's like it goes from two
yeah.
D animation, and
Uh-huh.
that even the 2D animation to me is like a really basic, but
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
same
yeah.
time, like it's
I like
satisfactory
that though.
enough.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
But the CG, it's like it's noticeable, but
Yeah,
and
it gets better. Like in the season 2 or whatever, it got more stylish. But yeah, in the first season
it's not something that I
pretty
minded so
rudimentary.
much, but it's just like it's not something I minded because of the design. The design was like okay, it's like passable. It was like sort of the movement. It seemed a bit like clunky,
Yeah.
but I
But
think it
even
had the show definitely was helped a lot more by its music. Definitely,
that's the music was so catchy. Like that rock band is so sick. But they even the Initial D series had like upskirt shots, and it had like Takumi's girlfriend ended up being an escort that was seeing some rich guy in a Merc in love motels, and like it's just that they almost can't help themselves.
mhm.
And so again, it's definitely something that like if it was strictly just cars and drifting, it's something that kids could watch. But because they have all that extra complexity, it's definitely adults only or mature themes.
I'd say for the most part, like you could sort of like okay, I sort of know what's going to happen here, but like for the most part, I'd say you could pretty much like primarily play it for like at least young like teenagers or anything like that.
Well,
Like if you
there was
if you
nothing graphic in it. It was suggestive.
yeah, if you're just
Yeah,
talking like the racing and everything like
yeah,
that,
yeah,
because
yeah.
that is pretty cool to watch. And obviously again the music was really nice to get into. The only thing I didn't like, one thing I didn't like about Initial D though was like sort of the main character.
Takumi, yeah, he's. I think he's designed to be flat. Like he was meant to be flat.
No, I just think he was a bit like to put
Stiff. Did you
it
find
to
him
put
stiff? Like
no
just.
to no to put it in a better term. I think I found him like overpowered. To put in an animator, just the race when he was doing that cat and mouse thing with those chicks, and he had never had a race on that track, and yet at one point they were like, oh my god, he managed to do it even better than us. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? I'm like, he's never driven up this track, and you can just nail it.
But he's been delivering tofu, man. So
Yeah, on the one mountain the entire time. Like, I can understand him being like a natural of some sort, but to the level of which it was where he just raced down it for the first time, it's just like, no.
You know, I went to a car that car meet that I went to last Thursday night. There was an old 8086 there, and it was mint, like complete respray, and everything had exactly the same wheels that the Initial D car had the tofu stickers on the side. And we walked up to it, and the window was open. We looked inside, and there was a cup of water. And we all just cracked up. It was like, oh fuck, this guy's gone next level. It was pretty funny. There was no tofu in the back though.
That's okay. Even if there was tofu in the back, I doubt you, or if I was there, I'd be like, no, I don't want any.
No,
but,
no one wants any. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Like, you know, in amongst all the new Toyota 86s, there was this one dude that had the original 86. It's pretty cool. Like, he's obviously a huge Initial D fan, so that was pretty rad.
Yeah, but from what I've seen, like the videos and what we said, apparently there's a lot of people that do that, and to the point where it's sort of made fun of a little bit in Japan.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They even got like the original Drift King is a race car driver, Keiichi Tsuchiya, and they even got him to consult on that anime. So it's pretty legit. Keiichi was this race car driver that was so far ahead of his competition in races that he just started drifting all the corners at the end because the second guy was so far away that he thought, "Fuck, I might as well just win in style." So he would just drift his race car around corners, and he became known as the Drift King. So it's kind of loosely based on him. Like there's some of him in the anime, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, when you say drifting, I think of Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift when they're like DK.
Well, yeah, and that's him. That was there. So DK was he had a cameo appearance in Fast and Furious. So it's nice to see an anime and a Hollywood movie respect the guy who kind of started it all.
Yeah,
it's really nice. I mean, he must feel pretty good about it. Like when World Time Attack, this huge car event that's on in Sydney once a year, was going on. The event organizer flew Keiichi in one year, and he was mobbed. And I thought he would hate it, but he fucking loved it. Like he'd just sit there and sign everyone's stuff because he's retired. You know, he's just like enjoying the fact that he can go to another country he's never been to before and have thousands of people know exactly who he is and want his signature. I think the smile on his face said it all. He was so into it. So
well,
pretty cool.
Honestly, I find that anime and that are really good at referencing and giving homage to, the people. Like in Full Metal Alchemist, the whole thing is surrounded by alchemy and everything, and there is a character who is Edward's dad named Holheim, who is the person who sort of invented alchemy.
That's not the same. That's not the same anime that. Remember, I sent you a video of a UFC fighter who was doing the hand motions.
That was Naruto. Because
Naruto.
The funny thing is that I just watched a video of a UFC fighter, of a UFC conference, and the dude was wearing a shirt with
Yeah,
all these red clouds on it, and it was 100% a
it's
Naruto
Naruto. Yeah.
reference.
So that
And I
guy,
was just like, that is so cool.
well, he is the current. He's a New Zealander, and He actually is the current champion in his weight class, and his weight class has got like heaps bigger guys. So it's so Japanese in some ways, in that he is the skinny guy,
Yeah,
but he's fucking beaten everyone, and he is legitimately the champion, and he comes out and does these crazy Naruto hand motions that the entire audience is like, or the typical UFC audience is like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Like,
yeah,
they have no idea. But then, like, in interviews and stuff like that, he'd get asked, like, it would have been a few years back now, but they would ask him, like, what is it that you're doing? Like the American interviewers would be like, what are you doing? Like,
do my hand signs.
and he's like, oh, is he? And every time he'd try to explain it, he wouldn't explain it. He'd be like, early on, especially, he'd be like it's Naruto. It's this the anime that I'm a manga that I'm really into, but anime that I'm really into. But you guys wouldn't understand it, and that's how he just wouldn't bother explaining it. But I think over the years, he's starting to explain it a lot, and he when he does the weigh-ins and stuff, and he has to face his opponent um in front of the crowd, like, he'll do the stances. It's just awesome what he's doing. Like, if you're a Naruto fan and a UFC fan, you'd be backing him just because of how
Yeah.
into it he is. And even he admitted, like, in an interview that I watched, he admitted that um his friends got him into it. Like, his friends were trying to tell him to watch it, and he admitted that it was really difficult for him to get into it at first.
Oh,
But
same for me.
right, right. So that must be a thing with it. But he said he saw one particular fight scene and
It was most likely because if he's doing, because what I saw was the whole Rock Lee thing. It was 100% considered one of the best,
fight scenes in
one of
in
the
Naruto.
best in fact, it's one probably an extremely favorable, like a favorite in the anime world, which is the Rock Lee Gara fight in the
That's
tournament
that's what
arc.
that I
Oh,
remember
sorry,
him
in the
saying, Gara. Yeah,
tuning exam arc, and because I've seen that fight and it's so good, because and it's actually like really sort of emotional too when like they get to like the Rock Lee and his background and everything like that. But I found that with like a lot of Naruto when you just like trying to explain certain things to people and they're just like, okay, like, and they're sort of like trying to reference it to something else, and you're like, you just don't understand.
yeah. You just
Like,
don't get it. Yeah,
when it comes to like the pain arc and stuff like that, and you talk about like when Naruto is accepted and become the hero of the village, and people are just like, oh, okay, cool. It's like, well, there you go, right there. You don't truly understand like what that actually means to the character and like what sort of journey you as an audience, as a viewer, have gone through as well with him.
I mean, even he had to fight the Aussie that was a previous champion, and before the fight, like when they were introducing his name, he pretended to whip out an invisible notepad and wrote something on it. And when they asked him afterwards, like, what were you doing with your hand motions there? And he's like, that's Death Note.
Yeah,
I'm just like, this guy's sick.
that series, that's a series that I've struggled to get into. Like
Yeah.
everyone tells me how great it is and everything, and I'm just like, I don't know, I just can't get into it. I,
I got into it I got into it enough to want to buy, like, when I get it personally, when I get into something, an anime, or I just have to own a part of it to a point where I need to buy a figurine, like, where you would buy like more and more, you collect manga in some way, manga to display. I'm kind of like, I get to a point, if I like a comic book or a anime so much, I will actually hop on eBay and just have to own a physical part of it. I don't know what it is. It's just a
See, I'm a bit
habit
iffy
I have.
with collectibles because with the physical books, it's just sort of a coincidence that it sort of works out in my favor, that everyone's like, clearly you like this series, you're displaying it and everything like that, and me saying I'm a fan of this. But when it comes to collectibles, it's just like, I've just spent $40 on this, I'm going to put it here and that's all it's going to do.
No, but it's like a memory container. It's like when I look around the room, even now, like when I'm playing Fallout 76, and then I have a little bobblehead figurine on the TV shelf, like next to the TV. It makes me feel good. Like it's just something about, like, I've got a Cade 6 figurine in my kitchen, and when I look at it, I think of Destiny, and it triggers memories, if that makes sense. So it's like
It does.
I've read the anime or I've played the game, but then when I see the figurine, I don't have to be still into it, but it reminds me of good times in that game, or good times reading that comic book or
Yeah, I
watching that
understand, but
anime.
to me, it's just a case of the fact that it's like it's literally sitting there, and it might be sat on a shelf in another room that I generally won't go into, and I'll see it occasionally, and be like, oh yeah, I forgot I had that, or oh
Well,
yeah, I've got that. I'm
yeah.
like, that looks pretty cool. I
Oh
remember
well,
why. I remember when I bought that, and I'm like, yeah, it's a really good show, but I'm just like, it's just sat there. And
no, I get it.
yeah,
Mine just sit there and gather dust. Like they're so disgusting. Like I actually can't take photos of stuff because it's just so dusty. But one thing that is cool is that when I do have visitors over at my place, especially the first time they come over, they tend to find something in my lounge room to associate with. You know, like whether it's Darth
yeah, but
Vader or
from what you've told me, it's generally just, oh, the stormtrooper helmet. I'll be wearing that.
You're right. Yeah, it is sad that like I've got like such cool shit like from the 80s and stuff like that. But you're right that the one of the first things people comment on is the Stormtrooper helmet, which
Which is
is
from the
pretty sad.
70s.
Yeah, true, but it's just that it's more that they're commenting it because they know what Star Wars is, as opposed to um some of the really cool old school underground shit that I've got around. You know, like they'll their eyes will just completely glaze over like a Gen 1 Optimus Prime because they can't even tell it's Optimus Prime. Like it doesn't look like Optimus Prime from the latest Hollywood blockbuster, you know? So
Yeah,
I do get a little bit like, oh, they're geeking it out about something that is more new school than some of the really cool shit that I've got around my house. But hey, that's still cool. It's still a nice thing when people recognize stuff, you know, as it's the other day on Facebook I posted up the Battle of the Planets cartoon intro, and it actually got a lot of comments from people like, "Holy fuck, thanks for posting that. That was like a blast from the past." And that's cool. I
but
like that.
when I see stuff like Code's Name, Kid Next Door, Dexter's Laboratory, the
Yeah,
original
yeah, you would
Samurai
have that.
Jack, it's just like, oh, I have not seen that for fucking ages. I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's I remember this being such a good show when I was younger
yeah.
and everything like that. And obviously Samurai Jack's come back onto as being made again, but it's just like,
It's not the
wow.
same as, yeah, the old school. Yeah, I think every generation would have that, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
When you, if you
it's like you kind of never grow up, and it is like I said, it's like a memory container. Like when you know when you see something like that that you haven't seen in like 15 plus years or 20 plus years, it's like it just brings back in my case like fucking 30 plus years, but whatever, it just brings back the memories come back for sure, because yeah, super
Yeah,
into.
the only problem you have with it is the fact that you sort of remember it differently. Because
Yeah, 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 for sure.
like when you
It,
play an old game or watch an old TV show, you remember it, but like a lot more nice, like as in like the animation or something like that, or the graphics, and you're just like, oh, I remember them looking like so beautiful, and
have you
because
had
you
that? Have you
have
had that issue where you've tried to introduce somebody that to something that you fucking love so much as a kid, and then when you were introducing them to it, like just say you're introducing to the first Star Wars movie, and then because I mean we both that's probably a bad analogy actually because we both still love the first one, but sometimes when you introduce them to something that you love so much when you were younger and you're watching it with them, you realize that it's not as
all
good
I
as
know
it
is that
was.
if I said let's watch the original trilogy and we watched it and they were like after it they were like I don't like those ones, I like the newer films. They're like, just get out, I don't need you in my life.
Yeah, I could see you. Oh my god. But I mean, I wouldn't be able to. expect anyone who's just say 20 or 18, just say, watching the first one to actually sit through it from start to end without fiddling with their mobile phone. Like it's not, it's so different to the fast pace of like an Avengers movie where it's just a whole fucking action scene from start to end. You know, it's like it doesn't have those, it has moments, but it doesn't have like those long fucking half an hour long action scenes.
Well, even in the Star Wars, like even in Star Wars, the lightsaber battles themselves, like between
Mm,
Obi-Wan Kenobi
mm.
and Darth Vader, and then the one between Luke and Darth Vader, the fights were like fairly slow. Like, as in they just they
Yeah,
just
they were, yeah.
they make a couple moves and then they block and parry it, and then they sort of stop and
And
face
act
each
and
other again,
talk. Yeah.
and then they go at it again, and it
Yeah.
just be a few moves. And it's actually, if you look at a real sword fight, that's actually what it looks like. You know, like the fact that people are just like in movies in Hollywood where they're just like waving about and like fully sprinting at it is like not realistic at all unless you have like
Mm,
that much stamina.
mm,
Um,
mm, mm,
but like in comparison to like the newer movies and in comparison to the prequels where Lucas did actually um, focus more on lightsaber dueling, even though like people have picked it apart. Um, you know, the difference between like obviously people of the newer generation seeing like fights where it's all like a lot of it's more flair. It's like basically a dance with blades. And if you
mm.
showed them a fight in the original trilogy, they'd just be like, "Oh, this is boring. Like, where's all the like the flipping, the kicking, and the radical moves? The pushing each other, choking each other. Like these insanely cool moves." And you just be like, "No, this is Star Wars. This is the original trilogy." And they'd just be like, I don't want to watch it anymore."
I find all of this fascinating. It's like it is part of getting older, but it's like I don't um like I'm not a hater of the new stuff. I think that's what makes it easier for me. Is like I'm not one of those, typical I love your old stuff better than your new stuff. Like I don't have that chip on my shoulder per se. So I really love a lot of the new special effects stuff. If anything, I'm more critical of it. Like I think when I was watching the old school stuff, I was blown away by that shit. I didn't even question the special effects because I was a kid, right? Whereas now when I watch a movie and it's got bad CG, I'm just like, oh fuck, that looked bad.
Yeah, well,
So I'm more critical, if anything, but I still love it. Like I just like especially when it's done right and
when it
it's
comes to like the
impressive.
new stuff in Star Wars, like I I don't mind the original, the the prequels. Like they can be all right. I mean, Revenge of the Sith is the only one that I consider good, but
Mm.
like the lightsaber dueling is like the best part of it, and I
Mm, mm,
like
mm,
that
mm,
about
mm,
it.
mm, mm.
But
Yeah.
with like the sequel trilogy, like I hate them. Like I do
Mm.
hate them, but I have to admit they look visually great.
Yeah, it's almost like if you take a screen grab at any point in the film, it looks good. Like the coloring, the just everything about it just looks super stylish. Like there's some good design elements in all the new ships and all that kind of shit too. So
Yeah,
um,
it looked visually nice. The exception, I didn't like the stormtroopers. I didn't like Captain Phasma either, but
yeah,
like their design, I didn't like the stormtrooper helmets. I think
yeah.
if they were gonna make like it, they should have either gone classic stormtrooper, or they should have like reinvented their look entirely, not just go, let's just add a line sort of to the side of the mask. So
Man, a friend of mine from high school, um he struggled for a while when he first came out, just doing like technical drawing, kind of caddy kind of stuff. But then when Fox Studios opened up in Sydney, he got a job working on the Star Wars films. That was the one with Natalie Portman. Because I just remembered him sending me a photo and he said, "Do you recognize who this chick is?" And I almost didn't, but it was him at a party with Natalie Portman without makeup on, like, which is pretty rad. And
plus
like
she's hot.
yeah, she's amazing. And at that time I was working for Animal Logic, and they did a lot of work on Moulin Rouge, Babe, and The Matrix. So I would rock up like, because I was kind of like, I was head of design, so I got to be a bit lazy and I could rock up whenever I wanted to, so long as I left later. So would rock up at like 11 or something. But even when I rocked up early, like my mate's car was there. And then even if I worked back late, my mate's car was there. Like that's how hard they were worked for Star Wars. And it turns out in that entire year that he was working on Star Wars, he admitted to me afterwards, like years later, that the entire thing that he did was the cockpit for Queen Amidala's spaceship. And in the movie, it only gets shown for 1 second, or maybe it was 2 seconds.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of things like when I was talking to when I went to college at one point when I went to TAFE, I was talking like graphics design and everything like that, and then some dude was like, "Well, my brother or my friend's brother, I can't remember which one it was, he's a game designer." Or graphic designer for a video game company, and he says, and for months now he's been working on a crate, and I'm like what? And I'm like, yeah, he's been working on like a crate, and I'm just like, okay, oh my god, what the fuck? I'm like,
it's so
months.
legit.
Yeah.
It's so hard. Another thing that he said was that what they would do is, because he would obviously peek into what other people in the office were doing, right? And they were completely like under oath. They could not, non-disclosure. They couldn't share anything, but he could tell me stuff afterwards. And he said what would happen is the American designers get the best jobs. They get the best work. Like they get to do the design work. And so what Australia was, or Fox Studios was for them, was we were the grunt work because we were cheap to the American dollar at that stage, right? American dollar was so much stronger than the Aussie dollar. So what they would do is like they would have this guy draw a gun, and he would draw it, freehand, and he would send that through to Australia. And
Just say,
then
make this.
yeah, now in CG, just go and make that. And then the CG model would get sent back to the US, and they'd spin it 180 degrees and go, yeah, you got the back all wrong. And then they would realize then that they have to do another drawing of the same thing at a different angle and then send that back. So they would to and fro shitty drawings. And then the Australian designers, or not designers, the grunt workers would try to guess what it would look like from that angle, because they don't have it. They just have a drawing in front of them. So like, here's a drawing of a spaceship, make it in CG. And it would just go back and forth over and over again until it was right.
Yeah, but honestly, I think anybody who potentially is listening to this could so relate to the fact that they've gotten something, or there's a department like I've got it myself where I work, where there's just nothing but vague information. Hey, do this, and then you're just like, I'll take it to the people who are experts in this and give it to them. And they go, I have no idea what you want me to do with this. Can you get me more information?
So
you're like, oh my god.
It's so true, right? It's so true. Yeah, it's a good analogy for a lot of.
And then if you complain, they just be like, yeah, just shut up and go do it. And you're like,
just do it. Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, but this is a problem. You're like,
shut up and take it.
And it's just like, not on my end. It's not. Go do it. Go.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the thing. Like, I don't know. I think it sometimes when you're just like like a small part of the system like that, you just feel, like you feel you're proud that you got to be a part of this huge project, but in reality, the reality sucks. Like the reality
you're
of
simply a small cog in that big ass
machine. Yeah. It's almost like being a film extra, like you're just one of those people in the crowd. And I don't know, like just the amount I know the amount of work that he put into Queen Amidala's cockpit. Like I know how proud he was of it, and for it to only be shown for a couple of seconds in the end film must have stung a bit.
Yeah, you definitely would have been a bit like cut up about it. Like, I mean, you're literally putting like so much work, and then for it only to be like for a few seconds.
And that you can never tell anybody. Like you can never put it on your website or your CV that's what you did. That's probably the worst part for me personally. I find that
That part just
you
also doesn't make sense at all either. Like
well,
the movie,
you did it under a company, right? So you don't own it at all. Like you don't own the rights to share this on any social media or any of your web portfolio or
yeah,
anything.
I can understand not being able to use it, but not being able to be like, hey, by the way, I'm the
I
guy that
did
did
this.
this.
Yeah,
Like,
you can't. You sign a document that says you can't. So um, it's just the way it is, I think.
what does the you saying it getting him in trouble because it's like
Well, I didn't mention the guy's name, so.
Yeah, but like if someone from like Disney, they'll be like, "Oh, I know who made this," and
Look,
I, it's
I
like,
mean, I think it's a common story. It's like, I
I,
mean,
ima-
I mean, if anyone listening is surprised by it, that's cool.
yeah, I
It's a
imagine there's
real
millions of them.
story, so
Like,
um,
yeah, I imagine there's like thousands of them when they just where
look,
someone
I'm
will
sure
step
his name
forward and
was in the
say,
credits. You know how long the credits are at the end of these films. Like, I'm sure his name was in the credits.
yeah, like towards the middle, that everyone skips and just goes, "I'm
Everyone's
not
left the
watching this."
cinema.
Yeah,
Well, that's why they put a little scene at the end of the credits these days, so that you got to sit through the credits.
yeah, that's why I buy a DVD so I can just go, "I'm skipping this just to
I don't,
get to the end part."
a lot of people probably don't even have something to play DVD on anymore.
Yeah, but like it's just the consoles. Like everybody has those. Just get a console. No, but it's just the fact that like credits like 10 or 20 years ago were like a few minutes long, and nowadays they're like
Yeah,
fucking a movie themselves. Like
yeah,
this movie is 3 hours long, 1.5 hours for the movie, and another 1.5 hours just for the credits.
yeah. I love movie title sequences too, because I think, like, yeah, maybe in some Hitchcock's films, they had really cool title intros. James Bond films always had cool ones, but then there was a period where there was just nothing. And when I was in university in design school, we all as a group went and saw Seven with Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman.
What's in
And
the box?
yeah, and man, that intro title sequence with the just the Nine Inch Nails soundtrack, and just how it was shot and the typography and stuff, just as design students, it blew our minds. Like, it was just holy shit, and it seemed to spark a whole lot of other movies from then on to create almost like a mini movie before the movie,
Yeah.
with typography too, because you remember, even with Star Wars, obviously it has the famous scrolling text,
Hmm.
and Superman would have the huge Superman music with the names of the producers and stuff flying in
While
and
like
out.
flying through space and
Hmm.
everything like that. Yeah, it was really
Yeah.
cool.
So I think there's a thing, I love that shit too. As a designer, I've always been, oh wow, like, especially early on, I'm like, wow, I could do that for a living. Like, just do the title sequences, because it's just such a specific um thing. And I never got
Well,
into
you
motion,
could.
but I fucking
Well,
could.
the title sequence could be. You just talking like specifically the very start
Yeah,
of a movie or a TV show, or you
yeah,
also talk about when like the theme
yeah.
starts off, like with Star Trek, the fact that you'd have the music going on, but then you'd also have like the space going through, like near planets or
Mm,
galaxies and everything like that. Well,
mm,
because
mm.
with the original Star Trek, you just had it like flying across the screen every so often, and then with Next Generation and Voyage, you had it like going across planets and everything,
Yeah.
going across planets over nebulas, over these cloudy things, and then like with Deep Space Nine, you had like the start with this like gigantic meteor, then you had like the wormhole opening, and then you had runabouts going everywhere. Like that was pretty cool.
And that's it. Like, even with Netflix series, like, when they have when I'm really into a Netflix series, chances are it's got a really good intro. So, like, just when one episode ends, the music kicks in for the intro again, and you're like, oh fuck, I'm watching this next episode too, because this intro is so good. So
Yeah, well, I like sometimes I do like watching the anime openings as well, Now, to me, those are a bit of a double-edged sword because they can like basically tell you what's sort of going to be happening in
That
the arc
sucks.
that it
Yeah.
contains to. Now, why I say it's double-edged sword is because at the same time it can be like, oh, okay, so this is how it's going to follow, but at the same time you get the general gist of what's going to happen, like all the like. So with JoJo Part 2 Battle Tendencies, when I watched the intro for that, and I love that theme song. Like I literally
Yeah,
keep
music plays
listening
a
to it.
huge part. Yeah.
When I watched it, there was this part where Caesar Zeppeli's like sort of like shocked face, and then he stops, and then Joseph Joestar's got his bandana and puts it on, and then sort of starts making this motion that he's screaming. And before the episode even started, I was just like, he's gonna die,
Yeah.
and he did eventually. I was just like, I fucking knew it.
That's so part of modern culture too, where they just give away too much in the adverts and the like the
Oh well, they did that with
teasers, like they fucking do it all the time these days.
Treasure Planet because the
Trailers, that's what I was looking for. Trailer, the word trailer. Like they just give so much away in trailers these days.
Yeah, well, they did that with Treasure Planet, the trailer way back in the day, and I love Treasure Planet. Luckily, I never saw the actual trailer for it because apparently in the trailer they actually go, and this treacherous pirate, and they show this face of the cyborg, but that's supposed to be twist in the movie, and I'm just like,
Mm.
well, apparently that's the whole thing about there was a conspiracy that the movie was set up to fail in the first place. But yeah, that's definitely something that's a problem, but that also sparks like quite a few YouTube channels that analyze trailers to go, okay, so like this
Yeah,
might imply that this is going to happen and
yeah,
everything. But
yeah,
some people like doing that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a lot that goes into a trailer, but I'd imagine politics comes into it, and uh,
Yeah, but
gets
I
to a point where you got to put this in it. You have to put this in it, or people won't understand that, or that's too vague, or
yeah,
like
but I sort of have not that specific problem, but I have a problem with like watching something and essentially sort of spoiling it for myself before I see
yeah,
it
yeah. I fucking
because
hate that.
yeah, yeah, but for some reason it never like robs me of the experience or something like that.
Mm.
Because I'll be like, oh, that character seems cool. I'm just like, I don't know why, I just want to look him up and I'll read up on him. I'm like,
Then
be like,
fuck you
oh,
over.
okay, so he's
Yeah,
gonna die. And I'm like,
yeah.
okay, but then I'll watch it and then I'll be like, but the twist will like not so much affect me. I'm just like, okay, but like, how is it like really done? Because I'll just know that he died, and generally give. I'll read it sort of, but I won't read like too much into it. I'll just be like, oh, okay, so he dies. Okay, but
Mm.
I want to see like what happens, like how does it lead up to that event, like and everything like that. And though I won't get like that twist that everyone else gets, like, oh my god, he died. I never saw that coming. I'll be like, well, I saw it coming, but I thought it was really cool how it did.
Mm.
Like the only like
Mm.
there are some shows that are generally I never like looked it up, like with Naruto, where Jiraiya died. Like I never saw that coming, and like I had to I had to fight back the tears, like a lot of people did, I imagine.
Well, we'll speak. I haven't watched any Naruto, and I'm really into Izzy, like the fighter who always does the Naruto moves in UFC, and I think honestly, you've talked about it a lot, but like because I'm really into watching UFC and I'm really into this fighter, I actually want to watch it now. Like I think he's done a good job in inspiring me to actually go and check it out. And probably I'm not the only person who's inspired to go and check it out. And he actually fights tomorrow. So he's been flown to Abu Dhabi because it's like one of the only places UFC can hold an event these days. And it's next level shit. And he probably has the toughest fight of his life tomorrow. He's up against a guy that looks like the Hulk. So complete different body types. Izzy's like skinny in comparison to this Hulk character
Yeah.
that looks twice the weight of Izzy. And I know Izzy's gonna do some Naruto tomorrow. Like I just know it, and I'm already excited about it. So
Well,
I already know
if
if I was into Naruto, I'd be even more into the fight tomorrow.
yeah, well, yeah, Naruto is like something that'll when you get into it, you're definitely gonna have to go with into it with an episode guide, which is
Yeah, I'll ask you for your help there. Like I'll definitely catch you on Discord, and like you can tell me where to start and what to do and
definitely
all of
like
that kind of stuff. So that's cool. I'm cool with that.
definitely the original series is something that did test me a bit because at
Mm,
one point I was just like, I'm not into this. I'm like sort of like not super into this, and
yeah,
I was getting like really annoyed at one point.
I'd
And
imagine I would as well.
there is a character who just like at first it, it's like really pisses you off like how useless she is,
Mm,
but it kind of just becomes a running joke, and you're just like, I don't care anymore. You're
just
just
go with it.
fucking
Yeah,
you're just useless. Um, but unfortunately, I have to say, even though the original series, like it kind of tests your patience, and Shippuden is definitely probably the better of the two. I'd say I don't. I think if I hadn't watched the original, I think it would have robbed me partially from
yeah.
like some of the topics, like the relationship between Naruto and Sasuke. Like that, pretty much a lot of it is in the original Naruto, especially the fight between them, which is done really well. And like the final fight between them, no spoilers, of course.
Yeah, I was
Um,
about to say. No
I've
spoilers.
I've already thrown some spoilers at you,
I
unfortunately.
know, but I've got a memory of a goldfish, so
Yeah, well,
I won't remember. And you know,
that thing is it's just it's such I to me it's just like a really good show that
yeah.
I thought was done really well. There's
But I mean,
obviously
I
there's
will hit you up about like how do I get started, and you just send me some links on stuff to buy.
okay, how you get started. You find episode one, you press play. There you go.
No, yeah, I
That's
know,
it
but
right there.
you'll tell me.
You've started.
I probably want to buy it, or if there's an online service. I don't know. It's still on Crunchyroll and all that shit? I don't know.
It's on
I,
Crunchyroll. It's also on
yeah.
Anime Lab. But I
Okay.
know that you got Naruto, then Naruto Shippuden, and then they brought out I guess it's not technically it's a sequel series or a spin-off series where it's called Boruto, which is about Sun,
Oh
which
God, you've lost me now. But hey,
I was actually I'm going to say that a lot of Naruto fans, including myself, don't like it
okay.
because it's just
Like, we'll see how it go. Like, I'll keep in mind as well that it's not easy to get into. But hey, like some of the best
all,
shit you've got to put a bit of work into. So
all Naruto Shippuden. That's where it ends for the Naruto story. Boruto is just like Boruto's about Boruto, not Naruto. Naruto's in it, but he's not the main character,
mm,
which is easily why if you went, I'm never going to watch Boruto, it's like you will never lose any kind of experience really. You can sort of see like where Naruto ended up like so many years later, but like that's about it.
well, if I
So
do get into it, I hope that if I ever land up on the dance floor at a nightclub, I don't start doing Naruto hand movements. Like
what is Justin doing?
I hope I don't start wearing the t-shirts, man. Like, I just
He's wearing a headband for some reason.
But on that note, dude, I think we should wrap it up. I think I think we've done all right for an episode 2, just us two. You know, that's
Yeah, we'll hope to
we
bring in Joker next time, see how
Joker.
that goes. Because
See how it goes. Yeah.
from what you're describing, it sounds like if we'd have me and him be sort of being like very similar, but also like really different in like how we geek out, as you said, would definitely be um, something different as well.
Well, he
Uh,
geeks out over different things, and like, oh well, him and I geek out over cars, but he's also into different games than you and I are into as well. So that's pretty cool.
yeah, Dota.
Dota, fuck, he's always playing Dota. But I'd like to hear what he thinks about Dota. Like, I actually want to understand it a bit more, and I think who better than Joker to explain it. So,
Yeah, but and it's just like I think you've got like two people who are extremely geeky, and then you've got that vintage geekiness about you as well.
mm.
And then but you've also got like this artsy style background to you as well. So
No, I think it'd be a good mix. So we'll see if we can get him on the next show. But yeah, let's wrap it up. I think I'll leave it to you to wrap it up. You started it.
okay.
We need to figure out an outro because, like,
All right, peoples of the internet, listen to me and listen to me well. We have been geeked out. Thank you for watching. We will catch you on the next one. Be sexy as always. Nipples out.
Nipples out. All right, catches.